welcome to another episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. Well, folks, for this episode, we are going back to the topic of short films. So yeah, we are going back. So we are going back to that topic of short films, and this short film that I'm going to talk about would be from this one will be from Pixar, and that short film is actually their very first animated short film titled "The Adventures of Andre and Wally B." Or simply Andre and Wally B. Now, The Adventures of Andre and Wally B is a 1984 American animated short film produced by the Lucasfilm Computer Graphics Project, aka Pixar Animation Studios, which is a division of Lucas, which at the time, which around which to which under the name Lucasfilm Computer Graphics Project is a division of Lucasfilm and the predecessor of Pixar. The short film was groundbreaking by the standards of the time and helped spark the film's industry's interest in computer animation. So yes, The Adventures of Andre and Wally B the Adventures of Andre and Wally B kickstarted Pixar Animation Studios film, and of course, the future of Pixar as well, when it comes to not just their short films, but also their full length animated feature films as well. Now, of course, this is actually now the short film is written and directed by Alvy Ray Smith, who actually created the Genesis demo scene in the second Star Trek movie, the Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, alongside directing The Adventures of Andre and Wally B. And also, Alvy Ray Smith co-produced the short film with Ed Catmull and John Lasseter, to which John Lasseter did the cinematography while it was edited by Craig Good. And of course, the animation in the film was by John Lasseter and was his first computer animated project with Lucasfilm, partially as a result of the success of this project and others that followed. And John Lasseter will go on to become an executive at Pixar. And the film was released on July 25th of 1984 at SIGGRAPH in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now y'all are probably wondering how I got roped into this movie. Now before I say that, I just wanna say to those who are new to the podcast, welcome to Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. If you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more content. And if you're listening to this on Podbean and Spotify, don't forget to hit the follow button as well. So anyway, with that being said, y'all probably wondering how I got tied into this movie. Well, it's actually interesting because I actually saw this movie. I actually watched this short film from the Pixar short film collection that was actually released on DVD. Now, back in the day, back in the day when Pixar was quote unquote popular. Although to be fair, though Pixar is pretty popular to this day, but many of their movies have become hit or miss, so to say. And of course, the short film, The Adventures of Andre and Wally B, was released for home video in the collection State of the Art of Computer Animation, most notably the Tiny Toy Stories, and of course, the Pixar Short Films Collection Volume 1. And in fact, the Pixar Short Films Collection Volume 1 was the DVD collection that I actually got. And to be quite honest, and that collection actually came out in 2000, and that collection actually came out in 2007, and I was able to watch, The Adventures of Andre and Wally B. That was actually their first, and that was actually their first animated short film. And also keep in mind, Pixar around that time was really finding their footing in terms of their animated short films before their full-length feature films. And of course, obviously, we all know that Disney owns Pixar now, right? Alvy Ray Smith, along with Edwin Campbell, were the founders of Pixar. And It was founded in 19 and it was actually, believe it or not, founded on February 3rd of 1986. This will basically be Pixar's 40th anniversary for the studio as a whole, for its existence, right? Now, of course, but of course, Lucasfilm, to which Lucasfilm is in charge of making the Indiana Jones movies and the Star Wars movies. They actually put Pixar on the maps, and they basically, they were basically called the graphics group of Lucasfilm, computer division, which actually started in 1979. So around that time when the original Star Wars trilogy became a thing, alongside with the full-length feature films of Star Trek, to which also explains that Avi Ray Smith was involved in the Genesis demo sequence for Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And of course, with this short film, the short film, Andre and Wally B really, put them on the map, started to put Pixar on the map. Now, with that being said, I have seen this movie. Now, I have seen this short film, and it says enough when this short film is short, because it is, because the runtime for this short film is about 2 minutes, which really explains it all. Now, normally short films, you can definitely pinpoint that short films are probably like, at probably, I feel like the minimum for a short film, I guess you could say like 2 to 30 minutes at best. Although I'm pretty sure short films have gone way above to be like under an hour, so to say, right? I think under an hour is the max for a short film, maybe like 50 minutes, I believe. I believe that's the thing, because one thing to point out is that in 1941, Walt Disney actually did the Dumbo movie, and that movie was at least 60 minutes, which, come to think of it, would have fit as an animated short film, but it was still a full-length feature film, believe it or not. So that's kind of stretching the bar right there, if you know what that's stretching the time limit, if you know what I'm saying, right? A film that is basically at least 60 minutes long, that's pretty much a full-length feature film, in my opinion. But when it comes to like short films, I say under an hour, maybe like 50-55 minutes. I think that's the max range for a short film. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. But anyway, going back to Adventures of Andre and Wally B, I might as well talk about this movie because it's an interesting movie that put Pixar on the map. So anyway, going to the movie, the short film involves a character named Andre awakening in a forest and being confronted by a pesky bumblebee named Wally B. Andre tricks the bee into turning his back so that he can run away. You know the old, the old pointing in a direction, saying, "Hey, what's that?" And then you run away, tricking that person. Right? That's what Andre did to that bee, right? Wally B. So Bumblebee is angry and pursues Andre and eventually catches up with him and strikes him with a stinger. A collision occurs off screen and a dizzy Wally B reappears with a damaged stinger. Shortly, Wally B gets hit by Andre's tossed hat as a last laugh for revenge. And that's the end of the movie. And that's the end, until it cuts to the credits where it mentions the people who were involved with it, like the concept art and direction by Avi Ray Smith, animation by John Lasseter, technical lead by Bill Reeves, technical contributions by Tom Duff, who designed the animation program called MD, short for Motion Doctor. Evan Ospey, Rob Cook, Lauren Carpenter, Ed Catmull, David Salson, Tom Porter, and Sam Leffler were involved with the technical contributions, and filming was done by David D. Francesco, Tom Noggle, and Don Conaway, and computer logistics by Craig Good. Now, of course, the title alone is a tribute to the 1981 film My Dinner with Andre, starring Andre Gregory and Wallace Shawn, to which Wallace Shawn will go on to voice Rex in the Toy Story movies. And of course, The original, now of course, the short film was actually originally entitled My Breakfast with Andre, about waking up with an android. The android's awakening was meant to symbolize the rise of computer animation itself. The android part would have been interesting, kind of like, like symbolizing the rise of computer animation. Now, that's a pretty cool concept right there. Now, it's never explained why the android was taken out. It was probably, they were probably on a tight budget, and this was obviously their first animated short film from Pixar, so I think they wanted to do something. I think having a Bumblebee is probably the least expensive they could do. I think that's what they did, but I don't know. But still, though, the short film is actually pretty good. The animation at the time is actually pretty good, and all you see are basically 3D backgrounds, and of course the 3D shapes, so to say. Like particularly with the Bumblebee and Andre himself. Like they're basically, they're spears, right? They're basically their heads are spear-like shapes, right? And that's pretty cool for the 3D and that's a pretty cool, 3D shape, right? Now, the animation on the shorts was groundbreaking, featuring the first use of motion blur in CGI animation, and complex 3D backgrounds where the lighting, styles, and colors were inspired by Maxfield Parrish, made using particle systems. Because CGI models back then were restricted to rigid geometric shapes, like Andre's head, including the Bumblebee. Smith wrote Andre as a robot, but Lasseter realized it was possible to make a more cartoony and soft looking character despite these limitations. Okay, so it was limitations. I guess it was kind of a limited, but I think they were on a limited budget for this one, which probably explains um the limitations for Andre's character, and of course, I feel like Andre is basically an inspiration from Ub Iwerk's design of Mickey Mouse, which was also made almost entirely of geometric forms. After finishing Andre's design, Lasseter was dissatisfied with how hard it was to make his character express emotions and attitude through his posture, and pushed the envelope by asking for manipulatable shapes capable of the squash and stretch style. It was rendered on a Cray X MP2 and a Cray X MP4 supercomputer at Cray's Research's Computer Center in Mendota Heights, Minnesota. 10 VAX 11750 super mini computers at Project Athena at MIT, and 1 VAX 11780 and 3 VAX 11750 computers at Lucasfilm. These machines were often available only at night, and much of the movie was therefore made in the wee hours. So, to those who have seen this short film, you can definitely tell that this movie was definitely made in a short time period. It's not like it was made in a week. It's not like it was made in a month. This was made in a short time period. Now, it's never specified of how long. It didn't say how many days, but I got a feeling they were able to like get this going in like in this short amount of time. I think it was like wee hours, maybe at most. I want to say a week at the. I want to say a week. That's probably my guess. They probably got this done in a week, which for a short film kind of makes sense. I mean, you're making a short film, although yet again, it does depend on the runtime you're gonna put into this movie. But it is a 2 minute short film, so wee hours, I guess that kind of makes sense. Maybe like less than a week or something. So, anyway, moving forward, Cray Research allowed them to use their computer in hopes Lucasfilm would buy a machine. The film's soundtrack was partially produced by Soundjoid. And which kind of makes sense because the movie because the during the credits is basically it's robotic music, right? Which kind of makes sense. And that's pretty much it for the breakdown of this movie. And just to and of course and and I know to those of you who are listening, compared to my other episodes I've done, this episode is going to be a bit shorter because I'm talking about a short film with a shorter runtime, so to say. But nevertheless, I definitely want to continue talking about this movie because there's actually some pretty there's actually a few trivia facts. There's actually a little bit of trivia to this short film. So John Lasseter made this film to entertain his children. Ironically, it frightened them instead. And of course, this was the first use of motion blur in computer animation, while being the first while being the first to use squash and stretch motion in computer animation. But I mean, yeah, I guess you could say I guess you could say the animation kind of got a little scary at times. I mean, if you have little kids who are probably watching this, having no idea what is this, I mean, it's gonna raise questions. And of course, I think with the design, I feel like with the I feel like given the time of how they made this short film, it kind of is. It does get a little scary at times, maybe for some kids, but the animation in this short film didn't really scare me. I mean, it didn't, but I guess for little kids, I guess that's up to debate. You know, maybe so, but not so much. I mean, for John Lasseter, yeah, I guess for his children, it kind of scared them. If you know, it kind of scared them. So yeah. But anyway, so yeah, Andre is loosely based on Mickey Mouse. Yeah, yeah, I guess you could say so. Although the voice alone, now I don't know who did the voice of Andre. Like all you hear is Andre, you know, making mumbling noises, or even he's yawning or just laughing. His laugh and yawn almost sounds like Donald Duck, right? The Donald Duck makes that noise. He makes the his mumbling noise. That's kind of like what Andre is doing whenever he's laughing or yawning, right? So yeah, pretty much, yeah. And of course, this is Andre and Wally B's first and only appearance in a short film of their own. However, they do appear as Easter eggs in almost every Pixar film and short film. So we don't see Andre and Wally B physically in any other Pixar medium, but they do appear as Easter eggs, right? So for example, in the first Toy Story movie, the book title The Adventures of Andre and Wally B is visible during the staff meeting scene. And then of course Toy Story 3, a Wally B sticker appears on Bonnie's backpack. And then of course in another short film titled Red's Dream, which is that little unicycle that the unicycle dreams of being in a circus, right? Which is of course Red's dream because the unicycle is red. So Red's dream, Andre shows up as a clock in the short film, Red's dream. So those are just a few examples. So those are just a few examples right there. They probably had more Easter egg appearances in other full-length feature films for Pixar, but I guess you could say not as much. But other than that, that's pretty cool. I feel like that's pretty cool that that these characters, they don't physically appear, but they make Easter eggs throughout. But they appear as Easter eggs, kind of like giving a nod to like, hey, we were a thing of saying like, hey, they were a thing for Pixar animated short films, right? Now, and yeah, and so forth, yeah. So anyway, yeah, and yeah, Andre can slightly have the same speech to Donald Duck. That's pretty much like that's kind of like going back to what I said about his yawn and laughing. It almost sounds like Donald Duck a little bit, right? So I guess John Lasseter kind of took inspiration from Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck to create Andre. But yeah. So anyway, yeah. So technically, this first movie, so yeah, this first animated short film really put Pixar on the map. I mean, it wasn't really called Pixar at the time. It was basically, it was Lucas. It was the graphics group of Lucasfilm Computer Division that put Pixar on the map. Especially for Disney. So Lucasfilm really kickstarted Pixar, right? Also to note, and also to note too, also to note, the Walt Disney Company. Also to note, George Lucas, who directed Star Wars: A New Hope, wanted to get Disney on board to be involved with the first Star Wars movie, but apparently they bowed out, and that's where 20th Century Fox came in, right? So it's kind of interesting. It's actually interesting too because now Disney owns Star Wars and Pixar now, so to say, right? So anyway, also to notes, in February 2009, Pixar executives John Lasseter, Brad Bird, Pete Docter, Andrew Stanton, and Lee Unkrich were presented with the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement by the Venice Film Festival, and the physical award was ceremoniously handed to Lucasfilm's founder George Lucas. And like I said, Lucasfilm really put Pixar on the map. And without that company, and without it, Pixar would not have existed without George Lucas and Lucasfilm. Plus, there are other short films that they have done, including their full length animated films too. Like after Andre and Wally B, we got other short films like Red's Dream, Luxo Jr., the one that with the Luxo Jr. is actually, the lamp, which will go on to become the Pixar lamp. And then of course you got Jerry's Game for the birds, which actually you got Jerry's Game, and then of course for the birds, other short movies like One Man, other animated short films like One Man Band, Bounden, and then what else? There's a lot out there. There's a lot of animated short films that Pixar has done. And I think a couple of them went on to and I think a few of them went on to get nominated for Academy Awards. And then of course you also have Toy Story. You have Toy Story, Bugs Life, Cars, The Incredibles, Monsters Inc., Brave, just to name a few that Pixar has done, right? And Toy Story was Pixar's first and Toy Story, which came out in 1995, was Pixar's first full-length computer animated film, at least for Pixar, right? And that really shows you, and that shows you how and that really and it shows how far Pixar has come, right? Now, Pixar today, they're pretty hit or miss when it comes to their more recent movies, but I got a feeling that but down the line, Pixar is still popular to this day, and without and without their first attempt of their animated short film, The Adventures of Andre and Wally B, we would not have gotten these other movies. In fact, John Lasseter actually stated when he saw the first Tron movie, which came out in 1982, Toy Story would not exist without Tron, because the first Tron movie, which came out in 1982, really put in computer animation. Although the computer animation for the first Tron movie was about 15 minutes, and without that computer animation, without that computer animation, we would not have gotten Toy Story. That's what John Lasseter is saying. Like, without Tron, Toy Story would not exist, and that's what John Lasseter said when he saw the first Tron movie, right? But of course, with the Adventures of Andre and Wally B, it's definitely groundbreaking. It set the bar for the future of Pixar. And that's all in thanks to Lucasfilm and John Lasseter. Now, of course, like I said, Pixar is pretty hit or miss nowadays with their current movies. I mean, so is Lucasfilm. In fact, Lucasfilm has been pretty hit or miss with how they're handling Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but mostly Star Wars, right? Like like their previous Star Wars movies, most notably from the sequel trilogy, like they really they're pretty. I want to say let's just say they split the fan base apart, and then of course also to note Kathleen Kennedy, who's also the Lucasfilm president, has stepped down from her role of her role of Lucasfilm, although she is still credited for two upcoming Star Wars movies, like the Mandalorian Grogu, and of course the Star Wars Starfighter movie that Sean Levy is doing. Her name is still attached to those movies, and then of course I'm pretty sure, and of course they're still doing Ahsoka season 2. But Lucasfilm has also been pretty hit or miss too, and their Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny movie also split the fan base apart too. So I don't know what the future of Pixar and Lucasfilm is to this point, but we're gonna see down the line. But we'll see down the line. But with that being said, I just want to I just want to talk about this. I just want to talk about this short film. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So there you have it, folks. That is my take on the adventures of Andre and Wally B. So if you all want to check out this short film, it's actually on Disney Plus. If you have Disney Plus, it's actually on there. Or if you have the Pixar Short Film Collection Volume 1 on DVD, it's actually in there. It's basically the first animated short film to be in that collection for Pixar. If you have the Pixar Short Film Collection Volume 1 DVD, right? Otherwise, you could also look up online too. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So there you have it, folks. That is my take on the adventures of Andre and Wally B. So, to those who have seen this short film, what did you guys think of the adventures of Andre and Wally B? Did you like this movie? Did you not like this movie at all? Did you think this short film was okay? Do you think this short film has much more of an impact than it is back in 1984? I would love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, that'll be a wrap for this episode. Thank you all for tuning into Codo Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. Remember to watch movies and stay positive.